What we're going to talk about today is the key. Actually, we talked about that yesterday. Today is also the key, all right? If I was talking to my buddy Nick, who's teaching a class right now, so he's not going to get this. But he said, I'm going to come to your class because I want to know some tips for evangelism. And I didn't give any yesterday. Today, I will give you one. But it is the most important tip you will receive about evangelism. And if you listen, you'll hear it many times. Because I believe no one can remember anything unless they hear it many times, because I can't. So, have any of you ever seen a sticker on the back of an automobile? Yes. Okay, what does that mean to you? What does it mean when you see the sticker?
Depending on what it is, it projects a viewpoint or possible belief system.
Okay, good. It's something that you think this person values. That's what I think. At least that's what I thought. Okay, have you ever seen one of these stickers? It's a laser right here. My laser. There it is. It won't show up on the TV. Anyone seen one of these stickers? Does anyone know what Advocare is? I thought Lubbock was like the center of Advocare land. Okay, I'm going to have to explain this to people. So when I was young, there was cars driving around, Escalades and SUVs, and they had giant stickers on the back that looked exactly like this. Advocare, we build champions. And I thought, if we build champions, this must be some kind of sports supplement. And if people like it enough to stick it on the back of their automobile, it must be really good. Because I don't put stickers for anything I consume on the back of my automobile. Burger King, Bluebell. If there was going to be a sticker for my car, Bluebell ice cream would be the one. But we don't even have that where we live. It would say barbecue. Okay? Now, I had to believe that there was something special about this stuff because I saw it. I saw it on these cars and I thought, I've got to try this. Because I was young and looking for a shortcut in life. And I thought, we build champions means we sell steroids. This is how the two things connected in my mind. I'm like, I've never seen it in a store. I know steroids are somehow illegal or regulated, but people really get something out of it. I've got to find some of this stuff. And I was kind of shy in my younger youth. I didn't want to flag somebody down and be like, hey, can I get some of that? But as fortune gifted me, a young lady in the youth group came up to me one day, and this was a girl I thought was cute. And she came up to me and was like, hey, have you ever heard of Advocare? I was like, no, but I want to. I want to know about this. And so she's like, well, my dad is doing a presentation. I'm like, sign me up. Where's it at? I want to know. And she's like, well, it's at our house. And I'm like, okay, so I'll be there. So I get to this thing and I'm like, all right, I hope I can afford this. I hope I can afford these steroids because I really need this in my life. I need to get an edge. I need to get bigger muscles, And so they start talking about being independently wealthy. I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? They're like, if you take these supplements and if you use them and if you sign up people underneath you, you'll have an income stream that will allow you to do anything you want. And I'm like, I want steroids. I don't understand what's happening here. I really was confused. I never heard of multi-level marketing. I was a moron. And so at the end of the thing, I've got my credit card out and I've maxed it out, $1,500 worth of everything that they have to offer from the Advocare people. And this box comes in the mail that's the size of a bathtub. And I open it up and I'm like, what is this? What is this? What is this stuff? I pull it out and the guy who signed me up, he calls me. He's like, how's it going, man? And I'm like, well, I'm really kind of confused. He's like, it's okay. I'll talk you through this. And we'll get you started selling this stuff. You just need to start out listing your friends. And I'm like, listing my friends? Yeah, just list the people you know, and I'll help you get in touch with them, and we'll start, moving some products, signing some people up. And I was like, something inside me feels really dirty. I don't want my friends on this list. Something's not right here. And so, you know what I did? I took the stuff with me to LCU and to the what do they call that? The Student Union building, and hanging out there trying to peddle my Advocare stuff. And I couldn't sell this stuff. I couldn't sell any. I'm like, I never sold $1 of that box of junk. Luckily, God blessed me with the return policy. And I was able to return most of it without opening it. But, here's the thing, all right? I couldn't sell it because I didn't believe in it. I didn't believe anything about it. I don't know why I bought it. I know why I bought it. I know what I bought. I couldn't say no. That's why I bought it. I was in a house, with the guy that I didn't know and his daughter that I thought was cute. And I was like, I guess I'm here because I'm supposed to buy this stuff. But you know what I did? I talked to my friends and they said, well, why should I take it? Do you take it? I'm like, well, no, actually I don't, because I can't afford to. I have to sell this to you because I bought it. And they're like, well, why should I buy it? I'm like, you should buy it because I bought it. I bought it, and that means you should buy it. And people were like, I don't think that's good. That doesn't sound right. If you don't take it, if you don't believe in it, why should I? Now, what does this have to do with Jesus, with evangelism? Here's what it has to do. Christian life is like sales, okay? Being a Christian is like sales. I'm trying to get people to buy this idea that says God loves you and He wants to change your entire life. We are trying to get people to buy this. And it's expensive. It's incredibly expensive. It costs you everything you'll ever have. And we walk up to people, we're like, do you want to go to church with me? They're like, no, not really. Doesn't look like you believe in what you're selling. What happens if they can't tell that we believe it ourselves? They're not buying. If they don't think you believe in the product you're selling, they won't buy it. It's a novel idea, don't you think? You know what's convincing? It's convincing when you see somebody that has tried something and they're like, you have got to try this because it's great. This is great. This changed my life. I said that yesterday. I said, if you want to know about the book that changed my life, I'll tell you afterwards. And several people asked me, why? Because it changed my life. I have recommended this book 1,000,000 times to people. Some people read it, some people don't. It doesn't matter to me. But it does matter because it did something for me. Right. And therefore, people want to know what it is. But if they look at us and we're trying to sell them something, they can't even tell whether we care about it or not. Guess what? They won't care either. They won't care. They won't want it. They won't buy it. They're not willing to change their life for something you don't even care about. Yeah. This is a kind of a sad reality, don't you think? Just think of all the evangelistic experiences you've participated in your life. How many of them said, this is what I believe. This is what I die for. This is what means everything to me. Why did the church grow in the first century? People died for it. They believed it. And their life proved that they believed it. And everyone says, that is something. If He will die for it, that's something. I didn't believe in this stuff, so I couldn't sell it. Darren Bible, please come forward. Come on down, Darren Bob. We're going to do a little skit. Me and Darren here.
All right.
He's going to be the professional. Which one did I tell you?
Person one.
Person number one. Okay. Darren is going to be the Christian, and I will be the neighbor. Okay. And you'll be Darren, and I'll be Tim. Okay. I'm your next door neighbor. All right.
Hey, you want to go to church with me?
Why?
Because.
Because why?
Our church does really cool stuff that other churches don't do. Well, they do, and they do stuff right. We do stuff right.
Wait a minute. I don't go to church. Why should I go to your church?
We really do cool stuff. We got good programs.
So church is boring. Why don't you come with me to the football game?
Oh, I can't. I got to go to church.
But why do you go to church?
Why do I go to church? I've always went to church. My family goes to church. The Bible says we're supposed to go to church. So I go.
So do you even want to go? Do you even want to go to church?
I don't know. We just always go.
You did a good job memorizing this. Well, I always go to football games, and I really like it. And football is super awesome. It's exciting. It's fun. And I think if you came with me to the football game, you would see how awesome football is, and you wouldn't want to go to church anymore.
I got to go to church.
Thank you, brother. Who's more convinced? Who is more dedicated? Who cares more about what they're doing? The guy who sits at home on his couch and watches his football game cares more about that than the guy who's going to church wishing he was sitting at home on his couch watching a football game with the other guy. Why do you think people don't come when you invite them to come? When you would rather be at home with them? Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I think that the guy next door has a pretty convincing argument. I mean, he's committed to that. He has a hat that's shaped like a piece of cheese. And he wears someone else's shirt all the time. And he's willing to take off his clothes and show his flabbiness painted different colors in front of the whole world to say, I love this team. How many Christians do you know that apply that amount of effort to their hobbies? I like hobbies, okay? I have a problem with hobbies. Hobbies dominate too much of my time. But the point we're getting at here is something's wrong with not only the way we look at church or the way we look at evangelism, the way we approach people. Something's wrong up here and here. And we talked about it yesterday, and we're going to continue to talk about it. But I'm stealing from another book that I really like. And if you notice, the book I referenced yesterday is not by a Christian author. It's not about Christian things. And neither is this one. This is a quote from Simon Sinek in the book Start With Why, the book he's holding right there. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe.
Say that again.
What you do simply proves what you believe. Now, we'll come back to that last sentence at the very end. Faith, and in our faith, why is absolutely critical. Why do you do what you do? If you don't have an answer for this question, I'm going to make you think really hard about it. People want to know why. This is the question that every person asks when you enter into a conversation with that person. They don't ask you, they ask themselves, why is this person talking to me right now? Why would, or who would refuse a bottle of water on a sweltering day? Let me tell you a story about when Darren Bible and Jeff Smith and the Disciple Trips group came to South Dakota. It was hot. What day was that? June or July? June. And uncharacteristically hot for South Dakota. I think it was like 98 degrees. It was so uncomfortable. And we said, we're going to go do a scavenger hunt downtown. Got lots of cool things for you to do sweating in the sun. One of them is, I printed out these cool labels. I thought they were cool. It said living water. And we stuck them on water bottles. And then, well, yeah, we did. So I got these cases of water bottles and I said, here, one of the things on your list is to hand out some water bottles to people. Anybody. Somebody that looks thirsty. It's 100 degrees outside. And these people are used to 50 degrees. They're dying. All of them are dying. Okay, and we walked around and we said, would you like a bottle of water? And they said, no. Would you like a bottle? No, thank you. Would you like a bottle? No. I'm like, there's sweat pouring off of you. Why don't you want this bottle of water? You know what they're thinking? Why are you trying to give me water? This is a scam. Avoiding scams 101. Why are they offering something for free? If someone's giving away something for nothing, this is clearly a scam. This is what people were thinking. Okay, I'm convinced. No one told me this, but I'm a mind reader. Okay, I'm trying to give you something for nothing. You don't know who I am. What do you think? What's the catch? What's the catch? What am I going to have to pay to get this free bottle of water? Are you going to try and rope me into some kind of pyramid scheme? I think that's what they were thinking. But what if we walked up and we started out by saying, you look like you're hot. I have some extra water. Can I give you some? They're like, oh, sure, thanks. That's cool. This is like an act of kindness or something. How random and cool. I'll take this water. But just some random person you don't know walks up to you and does something for you. They're going to say, why? And they don't tell you why. They tell themselves why. And now their brain is like running through this mental gauntlet of ideas. And they're looking at you and trying to judge you as a person and saying, is the water laced with something? Is this some kind? Is there a camera somewhere? Why would this happen to me right now? This is not normal. It's not usual. It shouldn't happen. It's a trap. Those of you who like Star Wars should appreciate that. If we don't tell people why, they're left to develop their own ideas. They're left to develop with their own imagination our why. They're saying, well, this is why he must be doing that. This is why. And you know, Gary Walker could tell you about this concept called projection, where people will project onto you the own beliefs that they have about themselves. And so whatever the worst possible scenario this person is thinking that they would do to someone else is what you're going to do to them right now. Like, well, I wouldn't do that unless, and they fill in the blank with some kind of imaginary nightmare. If we don't have a relationship with them, they're going to assume the worst. If you have a relationship with somebody and you offer them something without assuming or without telling them why, they'll probably assume the best. Probably. But maybe they'll still assume the worst. But if you don't have a relationship, they don't know you, there's no reason for them to ever assume anything good about you because the world we live in is filled with sin and people are mean and ugly. So they're going to assume the worst. And if you don't tell them why you're doing what you're doing, they don't even want to know what you have to offer. I've already given you the key. Did you catch it? Let's examine the church from an outsider's perspective. Say you've never been to church in your life. You don't know anything about church. You don't know anyone that goes to church. What do you think about church? I don't think we ever put ourselves in this mindset before we talk to somebody. We never step back and say, what does this person believe about me and my organization before I try to tell them anything? What do they think? Some of us haven't even ever thought those thoughts or tried to think them because all we know is church. And it might be kind of challenging. This is something you might actually have to spend some time developing in your own mind. But here's what I think they do. They see what church does. What does church do? Well, these people show up to these buildings on Sunday. And some of them have bells. Some of them have steeples. Some of them have complexes. Some of them are small. Some are big. But largely what they do is these people go there on Sunday. If you have no experience with church, you don't know what goes on inside, what do you think that means? It's a club. Because I was in an Elks Club kind of thing, and we went there for our meetings. So church is a club. Because that's what they do. They do the things that clubs do. Or maybe their church has some kind of outreach, and they say, well, this church does this. You know, they feed people with food, and the big truck comes into their parking lot once a month, and all the cars line up and get the boxes of food. That's what they do. But all they're seeing, these are the things that are evident to every single person, whether they're part of the church or not. This is what they see. It's on the very outside. Okay, the next level, moving towards the center. How does the church do it? Nobody outside can answer this question. And these two things, you know, during Bible, it's like our church does cool stuff. Like, well, to me, it looks like you just have a meeting. Like the Elks Club. No, we do it the right way. All those other guys, they do it the wrong way. Our church does it the right way. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're not even thinking about that. Why does the church do what it does the way it does? Most of the people that are in the church can't answer this question. Most of the people, even the ones who run the church, cannot answer this question. Go into an elders meeting and throw this up in the air and say, why do we do what we do, and then run. This is serious. We sat down and we had a talk at the church that we planted about 4 years ago, and we said, why? And let me tell you how threatening that question can be. Why do we do what we do? Is it actually because the Bible says to do this? Or is it because we've always done this? And let me tell you, most of the answers were because this is all we know. It's not because we read it in the Bible, it's because this is all we know. And we said, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for God. Why does the church do what it does the way it does? But what if we started there? What if we started there and says there's a God who created the entire cosmos, who wants nothing more than for us to be in fellowship with Him. He gave us this letter. He wrote us a letter that we could read and said, this is what's important to me. This is what I value. This is what I want. And we read it and we took it and we said, wow, can you believe that the God who made the universe actually cares enough to tell us what He wants? And it seems like this is what He's saying. It seems like this is what's important to Him. So maybe we should do this. It's like, you remember when Josiah found the law and it was like, you guys, look what I found. This is what God wanted. We've got to change everything. I think it's time. I dare you to walk into your church and ask, why do we do? Fill in the blank. Be prepared for some really defensive answers. Because this question threatens everybody. And it threatened me when we asked it. I was like, oh no, what's going on here? What's going to happen? Well, these people are mutinying. I'm fixing to be tarred and feathered. But you know what? I prayed and I was scared. You know? I'm like, I'm going to lose my support. We're going to die. Everything's going to go wrong. But our church is healthier and is moving in a direction that I believe God desires. Because we're willing to ask this hard question. Now, this guy coined this idea, the golden circle. This is just common sense. His name is Simon. We saw him earlier. This is the three things I just listed. Okay, on the outside, I wish this could point at the TV. I don't know why it won't show up. Can you see this on the TV? Below the TV? Maybe it's just weak. Okay, on the very outside is what we do. Okay, this is what everyone sees. We go to church. And the people on the outside, that's what they see. Go to church. Those people go to church. And no wonder they think the building is church. Because people go to church. And that's all we see. The second layer is, my church does cool stuff. Or in the churches of Christ, my church does biblical stuff. This is how we go to church. And this is about as deep as conversations ever get, inside or outside the church. This is what we do. This is how we do it. How many sermons are preached on how to do church right? What's the form of worship? What's the style of worship? How should we sing the songs? What songs should we sing? What about the Lord's Supper? It's all on how. But at the center, because of what? The why is the motivation. Jesus was questioned by some Pharisees one time. And they said, hey, Jesus, what's the most important thing in the law? And he said, the orientation of the tabernacle, of course. What day does the cleansing take place? Where's the altar of incense? What did he say? He said, why? He said, you're to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind. And the second thing is you're to love everybody else. Jesus didn't go to how. He didn't go to what. He said, this is why. Why don't our sermons focus on that? Why doesn't our evangelism focus on that? We're going around giving out tracts saying this is the right form of worship. Good grief, no wonder people aren't interested. You see the problem? Sorry, I'm kind of hard. I don't really hold back anything. What is your why? What is your motivation? Does somebody know how to turn off these lights? Can we do that? Is that a thing we can do? That is the most complicated light switch I've ever seen. Look at there. Okay, I'm going to show you a video by a show of hands. Who knows who Mike Tyson is?
No of it.
Yeah, I've never met him either. Good. The last time I did this, only like 2 people knew him. I'm like, they're babies, all these babies. Mike Tyson, when I was a kid, was the scariest man on earth. There was nobody scarier than Mike Tyson. And then he opened his mouth and it was very confusing. I'm like, if I heard him on the phone, I wouldn't be scared, but I saw him first. I'm going to show you a video that is focused around Mike Tyson, but he's not the key feature. And in this video, and it's very short, it's like 2 minutes long. If you go to Darren Bible's house, you'll get to see this again. I'm just going to stop, okay? I'm going to let you watch it, okay?
You can write everything down if you want to. Be brave enough to write every one of your goals down. But I'm going to tell you something. Life's going to hit you in your mouth, and you got to do me a huge favor. Your why has to be greater than that knocked out. And I love it. Buster Douglas got knocked out. Nobody ever got knocked out like Mike Tyson and ever got back up. It was almost a 10 count. He was stumbling. They were 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding, ding, ding. Saved by the bell. He goes to his corner. The whole world is like, that's it. Once he comes back out, that's it. Mike's going to just hammer it. And exactly that, Mike Tyson came out like, I got him. I got this kid up against the rope. Listen to me, many of you right now, life's got you up against the rope. You can't give up. You can't give in. Listen to me, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And if life's got you backed up, I need you to do what Buster Douglas did. Buster Douglas started fighting back. The world was shocked. Goliath has been knocked down. What happened? And it went to Buster Douglas, and they asked Buster Douglas simply like, what happened? And Buster Douglas said, listen to me, it's real simple. Before my mother died, she told the whole world that I was going to be Mike Tyson. And 2 days before the fight, my mother died. Buster Douglas had a decision to make. When his mother died, he could die with his mother, or he made a decision, I can wake up and I can live for mom. And he knocked Mike Tyson out simply because his why was greater than that punch. His why was greater than defeat. His why was greater than his trial and his tribulation. And I'm telling you, if you don't know what your why is, and your why isn't strong, you're going to get knocked out every single day.
I see you smiling. Can we get the lights back on here? What is your why? Is it because? Is it because this is what my family does? This is what my parents brought me to. This is what I know. This is what I'm used to. This is my culture. This is my heritage. This is me. What is it? I'm going to ask you some hard questions, okay? They're simple, but they're hard questions. They're hard if you will be honest with your own self, okay? Why are you here? Why did you come? Is it a reunion? Is it because you got invited by a friend? Is it because you wanted to learn something? Is it because something else? Those of you who preaches in here, raise your hand. Why? Why do you preach? To fill a time slot? Because nobody else will do it? Because they don't have someone? Because it's my job? So I can support my family and have a paycheck? I had to talk to a preacher recently, a good friend of mine, and he was telling me, I took this job over here in this place because I thought it would be better for my family. And I said, you're looking at it wrong. It's not a job. You can move anywhere and have a job. You could do anything and have a job, but this is not a job. And if you look at it as a job, you're going to fail every single time. It's not a job. Why do you want to teach others? Why do you want to teach others? Is it to make you feel good about yourself? Is it to be superior? Is it to stand in front and say, I'm the one that gets the attention. I'm the special one. I'm going to tell you, there's a really big problem with preachers because it attracts narcissists. People who like to have the attention. And I get energized by getting attention. I like having people look at me, so I think I'm right there. My wife is like, could be a problem. Why do you go to church at all? Last, most hardest question. Why do you believe in God? Are these questions difficult to answer? See, I knew they would be. That's why I wrote them. But they shouldn't be. These should come off the tip of my tongue all day long. And that's why we have a problem with evangelism. That's why we have a problem in the church. Because nobody knows why. We're doing things and no one knows why. We're repeating things that have been repeated for the last 100 years. Because. I'm a parent. I know about because. My kids ask me why. And by the time you get frustrated, what's the answer? Because. That's not good enough. It's not good enough for parenting. It's not good enough for the church. And it certainly isn't going to get anybody to change their life. That's what we're in the business of doing. If you're trying to do evangelism, you're trying to convince people to change their life. And because isn't going to cut it. If you don't know why, maybe this is why we have such a hard time with evangelism. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe this is why it's difficult. Because we don't have an answer for the hardest question. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. The light on that camera just turned off. I don't know if that means something. What you do simply proves what you believe. Nobody cares what you do unless it goes along with why. And if you can't answer why, what doesn't matter? How do we develop a strong why? I want to make this practical. Because if it's not practical, you've wasted an hour. What time is it? We got 15 minutes. Perfect. Turn in your Bibles with me to a place where Jesus did some good things for people. Some healing. Luke chapter 5. Luke chapter 5, beginning in verse 12. I want you to imagine your life as a leper. Okay? Imagine your life as a leper. While Jesus was in one of the cities, behold, there was a man covered with leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell on his face and he begged him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. And he stretched out his hand and he touched him, saying, I am willing. Be cleansed. Immediately the leprosy left him. And Jesus told him something. And it's kind of peculiar. He said, don't tell anyone. But go and show yourself to the priest and make an offering for your cleansing, just as Moses commanded, as a testimony to them. What's verse 15 say?
Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that the crowd became healed and their sickness.
Jesus said, don't tell anybody. But he didn't listen. That's what you could have said. Don't tell anybody about what I'm doing for you. And he's like, I'm sorry. I know you're the Son of God, but I will not listen to that. I have to tell people. And the crowd grows immensely. Why? Because he knew exactly what Jesus did for him. He knew exactly what his life was like. He knew how it changed. He knew what it meant. It meant everything. Jesus gave him his whole life back in just a second, and he couldn't help but tell people. That's powerful, isn't it? That's powerful. And when you see somebody that says, this is my whole life, I lost it, and I got it back in an instant because of Jesus. What does that sound like? I need to know who that is. Take me there. Show me that. Turn over a chapter to chapter 7. I lost it. I got to swing way back here. Oops, went too far. All right, chapter 7. You know this tale. This is interesting. Okay, this is recorded in all the Gospels, but it's recorded slightly differently each time. And I think it's interesting. Matthew and Mark both say whose house it is. Luke says too, but he says something different. Verse 36, one of the Pharisees was requesting him to dine with him, and he entered the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. Whose house is it? What does Matthew and Mark say? Simon the leper. Jesus went to Simon the leper's house because Simon the leper just happened to also be a Pharisee. Hang on a second. Oh, that's all right. Jesus is at a Pharisee's house who happens to be a leper, and a woman from the city who was a sinner came in. And when she learned that Jesus was reclining at the table of the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. And standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and kept wiping them with her hair from her head, kissing his feet and anointing them with perfume. Why is she doing this? Because she knows what Jesus did for her. She's exactly like the leper who couldn't close his mouth. Let's keep reading. Now, when the Pharisee who had invited him, who happens to be Simon the leper. Now, wait a minute. Why is he at Simon's house? Put two and two together for me. Simon's not a leper anymore. How did Simon not be a leper anymore? Jesus. Jesus removed his leprosy. Somewhere in between here and there, Matthew and Mark know him as a leper. Guess what? Lepers don't have houses. They live outside of town. They have to yell unclean to everyone that passes by. They don't have a life. They don't go to the synagogue. They can't be a Pharisee. He's a Pharisee. He has a house. He's inviting people over, and they came. He's not a leper anymore. And he looks at this woman that's weeping over Jesus, and he says, oh, she's unclean. If Jesus was a prophet, he would know how disgusting and unclean this woman is. What? Do you not remember, Simon? Don't you remember when you were unclean? Don't you remember when you got your life back? How grateful you were? What are you saying? How can you look at this woman and see someone other than yourself? What happens to us after we've been clean for a while? We forget. We forget. Simon forgot. He got in with all these religious people and they talk all about cleanliness and they talk all about righteousness. And he's like, yeah, I get to be a part of the club now because I got rid of my spots. And then he sees someone who's broken, who has the same problem he had, who's unclean and unwelcome. And he's like, oh no. How could we welcome her? You see how awful this is. You see how broken and miserable his mind is. What does Jesus say? Jesus answered him and said, Simon, I've got something to say to you. And he's like, oh, I want to hear it. It must be good. Thank you for coming to dinner. You're welcome, Jesus. So let me tell you a story. Okay, there's a money lender. And he had 2 debtors and one owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. Which one do you think is going to love him more when he forgives them both? He's like, well, that's easy, Jesus. It's the one who he forgave more. Do you see this woman over here? I entered your house and you gave me no water for my feet, but she's wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but since the moment I came in, she has not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she anointed my feet with perfume. For this reason I say to you, her sins, which were many, have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who is forgiven little loves little. Simon's like, hey, I was sick, but it wasn't my fault. I was a leper, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. She did it. She knows it. She lived this life. She made herself this way. I had it on accident. I was a good person. Everything was great with me. I just needed a little bit of help from God. He who's forgiven little loves little. Let me tell you what Jesus wants. He wants us to know. He wants us to know. He wants us to see everything He's done and recognize it every day. What are you grateful for? Was there any question what the leper and what the woman are grateful for? No question, is there? How has Jesus affected your life? We're running out of time. John chapter 9, I'm going to summarize this, okay? John chapter 9, you've got a blind man who's blind from birth. Jesus comes by. The disciples are like, oh, Jesus, who did this to this poor man? Is he such a bad sinner, or was it his parents that caused this? And Jesus is like, actually, I did it. God made him blind so that you could learn what I'm about to tell you. It wasn't this man. It wasn't his parents. It was so that God's glory can be revealed in this situation right now. And he heals the man, and the man goes out and tells everybody. And all the people are like, wow, is that the guy? No, it's not the guy. It's the guy. No, it can't be the guy. And they're going back and forth. The whole town's in an uproar, right? The synagogue people, the Pharisees, the religious people, they call him in. There's like, tell us, who did this? And he's like, I don't know. I was blind, but I'm pretty sure it was Jesus. And they're like, well, give glory to God because He did it on the Sabbath. He can't be from God. He broke the law. And God is the law. And if somebody breaks the law, they're not from God. They'll never say anything God wants to hear. You know how he ends it? Verse 24 to 34. He's like, here's something that's amazing. And this is the blind man in the synagogue teaching the religious leaders. And he's like, this is something amazing, okay? Because we've never heard since the beginning of the world that anyone that was born blind has ever been made well. And He did it to me. And we know that God doesn't listen to sinners. And how could He be anything other than from God if He's able to do this? The Pharisees are so mad. They're like, you get out. Get out. Get out of there. They can't stand it. You're born in sin and you're teaching us? They're just disgusted with the guy. Does he know what Jesus has done for his life? Can you imagine? This kind of blows my mind, okay? This guy has his whole life set as a beggar, the lowest of the low, with no self-confidence, no self-esteem, no self-worth. He doesn't believe in anything good in his whole life. Jesus heals him, and he walks right into the middle of the synagogue, and he starts shouting and telling the Pharisees what's wrong with them. How's Jesus affected his life? He grew a little boldness, didn't he? Just imagine the transformation. Have you ever been in a humble situation where you had to beg? You live on support? And then walk in and tell them, listen, you're wrong. You are so wrong because I know who he is. He did this for me. What compels you to speak? 2 Corinthians 5:14. The love of Christ compels us. For we have concluded this, that one died for all, therefore all have died. You know what follows? We're not the same anymore. A completely new creation. Because of what? The love of Christ. John chapter 4, I'm going to have to summarize this too. The woman at the well. That's why the bucket's there. Jesus meets up with this woman. They have the interaction. He says, give me some water. She says, you don't talk to me. He's like, actually, if you knew who I was, you'd really want to know what I've got to say. And then, she's like, oh, living water, sure, whatever. He's like, let me tell you something. I know you. I know everything about you. And then she's scared. Remember that? She's like, oh, you're a prophet. Okay. Please don't kill me or something. This has got really awkward all of a sudden. It's like, go bring that husband of yours. What happens immediately after that? You remember what happens immediately after that? The disciples show up immediately after that. You know where they were? They were in town. You know why they went to town?
Groceries.
They went to shop. They went shopping. They got food. The woman goes back to town. You know what happens immediately after that?
Town comes out.
The whole town is like, we got to hear about this guy. Now get this, okay? All of Jesus' disciples just went there. All the apprentice missionaries of the Son of God just walked into town, and the only thing they brought back was groceries. You know why? Because the reason they went to town was for groceries. Why did that woman go to town? She left her bucket. She went back to town and said, you have to see this. He just told me everything I ever did. I can't help but talk about it. Come and see this guy. He has to be the Son of God. He's got to be the Messiah. This is the guy we've been waiting for. Come out here and see him. The disciples saw those people. And they walked right past him. They didn't think they mattered. They saw him as Samaritans. They said, no, just give me the groceries. I got to feed Jesus. Jesus is out here. He's waiting. Please don't take any more time than you have to. We need fast service right now because the Son of God's hungry at the well. They bring him the food and he's like, you guys are idiots. I've been feasting while you were gone on God's will right here. And they're like, what? Who brought food? He's like, you didn't even see her. You didn't even see her. And then he tells them this short little parable. He says, look around you. Open your eyes. The fields are ripe for harvest. And here it comes. Just watch, because here it comes. I skipped. Ask yourself these questions every day. What am I grateful for? How has Jesus affected my life? what compels me to speak? Guess what? If this is how you wake up, if this is what's on your mind, you will know why. You will have a why. You'll have something to offer, something to say, something to give. And all the other questions become irrelevant. You notice what the lady didn't say? Can you really go through a quick explanation of every concept in the Bible right now with me so I can take it back to my townspeople before I come and get them? All she knew was Jesus told her everything she ever did. And that's all that mattered, because now she has a why. Let's finish this up. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply proves what you believe. Here is the moment where I hurt your feelings, okay? Are you ready for this? If you haven't already been hurt. What you do proves what you believe. I'm a good father. I can say that about me as much as I want. What I do proves whether I am. I love Jesus. What do you do? Does what you do prove what you say? Or are you just giving lip service? Because Jesus hates that. God hates that. He's always hated that, and He always will. What do you believe? The only way you'll know is by looking at what you do. Your actions are going to reveal everything about what you believe, regardless of what you ever say. Open up your checkbook. Go down the line. What do I value? Bluebell, 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 bluebell. Open up your calendar. What's important to me? Football, soccer, baseball, hockey, fishing. Work, 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 work. What do you have time for? What you do proves what you believe. Don't tell God something that you don't believe. Don't tell some lost person something you don't believe. If you don't believe it, you need to fix what's here first. Jesus said this when He said, don't go picking specks out of people's eye unless you're willing to address the log in your own first. Fix what you do so that it aligns with what you want to believe. Because sometimes we say, this is what I believe, but really what we mean is, this is what I want to believe. I'm not a morning person because I don't get up when the alarm goes off. But I want to be a morning person because I want to do things in the morning. There's a difference. What you do says who you are and what you actually believe. What's your why? I'm done. If you couldn't tell.